Those players know they're about to go out and play one of the games, if not the biggest game of their lives.
All right, you can admit it. No need to be shy about it. You're not the biggest soccer fan in America, but you are either watching, listening, or paying attention to the American effort at the World Cup this year, especially considering how close, oh so close, this team came to knocking out one of the best teams in the world and advancing to round two. Soccer is one of those vexing sports when it comes to American interest. So has this effort finally changed the course of fandom for the sport originally called football? That and how you can not be impressed with what we saw on Tuesday. Welcome back to Midpoint. Former forward for the Houston Dynamo and a veteran of Major League Soccer, Calen Carr joins us today. Calen, thanks for being with us, and how'd you like the game?
Oh, man, it was a heartbreaker. Thanks again for having me on. Obviously, it felt about 120 minutes of a big lump in my throat, and unfortunately we didn't come out on top, but I think when you look at the World Cup as a whole, there's still a lot to be proud of.
All right, the World Cup as a whole, here's what a lot of people are saying, and a lot of the naysayers. Oh, wait a minute. America backed into this one. They got lucky. They just, because of numbers, they were able to go to round two, and they still lost. Now, bring me a little bit of the reality of the situation here, because the fact that you hold Belgium scoreless for 90 minutes, one of the best teams in the world, does that not say at least that we're getting a little bit better on the world scale?
Well, I think you don't have to look far to see who was at home watching us play in that game. You see countries like Italy, Spain, England, some pretty big powerhouses who didn't get out of their group. Obviously, Portugal, who we went toe-to-toe with, took a 90th minute winner from the best player in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo, just to tie us, beat Ghana. So I think there's tons to be proud of. Of course, we're not quite at the level that we want to get. Pretty close to escaping, obviously outplayed by Belgium, but I think when you can get outplayed and you still come down to the last, 2 minutes of a game and you're right in it, I think that's a net positive, as well as some of the young players has really stepped up and really given us some hope for 2018 and beyond as well.
We just saw some pictures of Tim Howard and the 16 saves, some of the 16 saves that he made. Put that in perspective for us, because isn't that almost in essence keeping the American fans happy by almost standing on your head literally and making every save?
Well, he was world class. I think people are waiting for the next great American soccer player to step up, and sometimes I think we neglect to look at what's right in front of our face, and I think it could have been more obvious than Tim Howard last night. The start was ominous. 40 seconds in, he had a fantastic save. Unfortunately, he was going to have to face 27 more shots, ended up with 17 saves from shots on target. I think last night they put his name as the Secretary of Defense on Wikipedia, which I thought was fitting, and what an amazing performance from Tim Howard last night. I think you'll see that one go into the history books as one of the best performances by a goalkeeper in World Cup history.
Calen, we're watching shots of fans here going crazy, and I even stopped in, had a drink last night at a place to watch a game for a moment, and it was absolutely packed. It was people that you would never expect to see as soccer fans whatsoever. And it absolutely galvanized Americans. They went crazy over this. Work stopped. People wanted to see this game. But here comes that question again, though, Calen. Soccer has been talked about for generations now. I go back to the days of the North American Soccer League when Pele first came here. Now you have Major League Soccer that's here. Is there really progress being made in making soccer a bigger sport than it is? Or let me throw something else in here. It's as big as it should be, maybe, here in America. What's the reality?
Well, I think it's definitely growing. There's no way to deny that. I mean, you just look at the metrics as far as youth interaction, kids playing the game. Now my generation, late 20s, early 30s, my friends grew up playing the sport. Now they're ascending to being heads of corporations and moving up the corporate ladder. So these type of people are going to be the ones who are deciding where soccer fits on the corporate landscape as well as the social landscape. And of course, I think, this summer was special as a step forward, but so was 2010 and Landon Donovan's goal against Algeria. So I think people keep waiting for soccer to arrive, and I think the tide has turned. I think, in my opinion, it's already here. And you saw in the last week or so, Keith Olbermann and Ann Coulter, probably the only time those two will ever be on the same page, but both put together, these takedown pieces on soccer. And I think if you're not covering soccer, you're not covering the World Cup at this point, you're not covering sports properly. And so,
all right, now I'm going to stop you right there
yeah.
because maybe that's something else here, Calen, because we talk about soccer arriving. When you see these scenes in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., all around the world, jammed stadiums, people wanting to see this. First of all, Americans love to root for a winner, number one. Number two, they love to root for their own home team. That's what it's all about. It's great national pride. But is it also not fair to say that in all that, the mainstream sports media, especially sports talk radio, just doesn't want to give soccer its due because it's not football, basketball, or baseball, or something they grew up with and something that they can have controversy with every single second?
Yeah, I guess so, but I'm also fine with that. I think if you're, like I said, if you're not covering it, I think you're missing out. I think the tide has turned, and it's a sport where it's going to take over. You can see the growth of MLS lately. Yes, it's not at the point of the EPL, but I think it's going to be there within the next 10 years. I just think the way in America we don't do sports second best, and eventually we're going to get there to that point in soccer where there's more money in MLS, and we're bringing over more sort of name brand players as they've sort of get to toe in with some pretty big guys have come over, and then the most important thing in all that is that youth development here is really skyrocketing. So you see a player like Julian Green, who's a young American guy, or DeAndre Yedlin, who was a revelation yesterday. Fantastic tournament by him. He's born and bred in Seattle suburbs, and now he's playing for the Seattle Sounders in front of 40,000, 50,000 people, young, African-American kid. This is the type of guy that a lot of youth are going to really resonate with them and going to make them want to be professional soccer players as well.
We have about 30 seconds left, so we're 4 years down the road now. Let's go to 2018. You think there's enough youth here to put us back in the second round again and maybe even get past that first game?
I definitely think so. I mean, the World Cup is so difficult because it's such a short tournament. It goes for a month. So it's really tough to look at this as a real metric of where you stand as a soccer nation. Of course, the ball can bounce one way, hit a post, and suddenly you're out, and that's the beauty of the sport. And sometimes you get a lucky break, and Chris Wondolowski maybe scores that 90th minute winner, and we're on our way to face Argentina in the quarterfinals. So it's so tough to predict what's going to happen, but I think the most important thing is the interest and the growth that people have really sort of galvanized support in the United States. You see President Obama getting involved, everybody from celebrities and the like. So I think it was a huge, great summer for the U.S., and now I'm excited to watch the rest of the tournament, with maybe a little bit less invested.
All right, let's look forward then for the next 4 years. Calen, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck, my friend.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right. Hey, one more note about soccer, and this is one that speaks to every single American, even those whiners in sports talk radio. That's coming up next, right here on Midpoint, where we question everything.